Good morning. Good morning. Happy Halloween, or as the day I refer to as when Hillary Clinton was summoned. Um,
That's no, don't that makes all the other witches like me. Don't
well,
put us in the same category.
y'all are the pretty fleeting witches, and then there's Hillary. So, there was, remember in Oz there was the good sister and the bad sister. And
I do
so
waver in between the two
do you?
because
Well,
I'll
yeah.
stab a bitch. You
Well,
know me.
sometimes violence is the answer.
I mean, Glinda was sweet, but she dropped a house on somebody.
She did. Yeah, she put her in her place. Gave uh what's her name? The Dorothy, those real pretty shoes.
That's
And
right. That's
couldn't have got the
right.
ruby slippers without a house falling on her. But
Yes.
oh gosh, what is
Oh
this?
my goodness.
Halloween Day, October 31st. We are 5 days out from the 2024 presidential election, and things are heating up. Candidates are making their last pitches. News articles, news stations are touting their preferred candidate, except for the Washington Post, who declined, which I think was when you hear why people are upset about it, it's the reason why you do that. Of course, I know that news uh, print publications have usually chosen a candidate, which tells you right away they're
Mm-hmm.
biased. Whether they choose a right leaning candidate or a left leaning candidate, they're biased in that direction. And you know what? As long as they're transparent about it, I don't care. It's not like we can't read it for ourselves. Um, Now, Bezos declining to choose Harris is interesting. Apparently, he's lost over 200,000 subscribers. He's had a series of people quit. I think what we'll see in 6 months is that the Washington Post will maybe gain back a little bit of credibility with some of these people gone. And it's not like he can't afford a
Mm-hmm.
few $1 million a day hit in his billionaire bank book. Uh, I
Yeah.
don't think he wants to do it for a long period of time, but it's his business. If that's what he feels he wants to do, then he gets to make that call. He owns the business. Um,
I was thinking about this the other day because, okay, because you know, I look at all the news things, and there are like there are a few
mhm.
that used to be more just sharing news. And I mean, when I go onto a news article, I mean, a news station, and every single freaking thing is about the other candidate, the one they hate.
Yeah,
I'm like, this isn't even news. And some of our channels are guilty of that as well. And so I started thinking, is there a way to truly have an unbiased news organization? And through my thinking, like, okay, well, we could have a national news, like, how England has, their little national. I'm like, well, then that would just be what the government wants us to know.
yeah,
Like, is there a way to truly have, I mean, it's hard because like even when you hire people, because I
yeah,
thought, well, you could hire and say, okay, I want this many people to be this, blah 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 blah. Try to like line it out, but you tend to hire people who look and sound and talk like you. I mean,
sure,
even when I used to hire people, I used to really have to check my biases of, because you could go onto a campus and everybody would look the same way
yeah.
and talk the same way, and you have to like, okay, that's not right. You should be, hiring a varied kind of person, but is there a way to have an unbiased news channel? If
You
you were
mean
going to create one, like where it literally was unbiased and fair.
okay? So what we're saying is we don't want a news organization that's just an echo chamber. Okay, so Fox News is labeled as pro-Trump. Well, talk to Neil Cavuto about that. That's not the case. There's plenty of instances in the past where they were not pro-Trump, and I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I had
Right.
an issue with Fox News and I stopped watching them for a while was when they fired Tucker Carlson, which I thought was
Yeah.
was completely underhanded. I thought it was, You know who's on the board of directors for Fox News, right? Paul Ryan. Do you remember
Yes,
Paul
yes,
Ryan?
yes, yes.
So he's a weasel. He's a rhino. And why? And now it's who is it? Murdoch that owns is it Rupert Murdoch or Roger Ailes? So for some reason, I never can get the ownership, but it's the
Well,
offspring. It's the boys that
yeah,
run the organization now, and I believe it was their
right.
decision to hire Paul Ryan. But I like that some of the folks that are there, maybe they've got um, what is it when you've been there for so long, like a teacher's been in a
Seniority.
what's that?
Tenure.
Tenure. I was trying to think. I was along the lines. I was thinking truancy, but I was like, no, that's my kid. That's truant. My 8-year-old.
Absent.
Um, but some will talk about Tucker, and I've even heard them make a joke or two about Paul Ryan. And I thought, well, I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if they get in trouble or if they've been there so long they don't really give a shit. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the only bits I watch of MSNBC or CNN or one of the others, I just can't bring myself to turn it over to their channel. As and so I'm biased. I don't care to admit. Anyone who knows me knows that. But what I can do when I'm watching Fox News is I can go, I don't agree. Even with Bonji, and I'm like, yeah, that's not what I would have said. You know, I don't agree with that.
The reason I ask is because I think that, let's say I'm Joe Blow and I've been under a rock, or I'm a young kid. I'm 16, 17. I've really not paid attention to news until now. I want to start, making an effort to watch the news, right? So I just happen upon ABC because I think that's a national network. It's, well known. I happen on ABC,
Okay.
and it's, you know what I mean? Like, and it's clearly not a fair and unbiased network. And that's where I'm like, I don't think there is one right now. I mean, honestly, Newsmax is pro Trump. It came out of the fact that Fox denied Trump and turned their back on the Republicans during the 2020 debacle.
Okay.
And I have lots of friends that will not watch Fox now. I'll watch Fox. But
I
I
do.
mean, I have a friend that she literally, if I send her a Fox clip, she won't open it. She's like, I'm
Really?
not giving them any more of my time or money.
Okay.
She hates them now because they called it
Biden
for Biden so
back in
early
20.
on
Yeah.
on the
Brett
night.
Baer and Martha McCallum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she hates Brett Baer, and so that's her own thing. But whatever.
That's fine. But you didn't unfriend her over it,
And
did
so
you?
that's
So, of
no,
course
absolutely
not.
not.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm just like, I don't think there is. I guess I should say this. I think if you're a news organization and truly a news organization, not a entertainment or not a political, like if you're a political news organization, just say it. But if you're a news organization, I think you should share the news and it should be unbiased. Like I think Fox and Newsmax should go ahead and call themselves a political news organization.
And
I
why?
think
And MSNBC should be the same. I mean, try being a conservative
absolutely.
on one of their panels.
Yes, they should just go ahead and call themselves a political news. And then, okay, that makes sense. They're political news. But don't put yourself out there as national news, American news, and then be so leaning towards one side.
Joy Reid at MSNBC. There's several things she hates. One, black conservatives, Donald Trump, and every other white person. Um, she is.
And I literally love, I love brain dissonance. So I love black conservatives. I love gay and lesbian conservatives
People's like, wait, you don't. Wait,
because
you can't be that because you're this. Yep. Yeah.
absolutely, I love it. And and I also, if someone if they are say that they're a Catholic and they're left leaning, I like to listen to them and to see how they arrived at their decision. Because I love that conundrum of like, okay, what those don't align. What's going on here? Um, have I sent you the guy he's gorgeous? He's the gay guy. He's also gay Hispanic, but he is a pro Trumper. I feel I've got to send him to you.
Nope. Can't
Um,
say I've come across that one.
I feel like I've sent it to you. Oh my gosh, he is amazing. He did a trash can thing yesterday. It was
Did he
hilarious.
send that to me? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Send that to
yeah.
me. try to figure out a
he
way to
is
get this
hilarious.
into the podcast. Uh,
Yeah.
all right, so yeah, I guess the hot topic of the week, just let's finish up what we were just talking about news organizations, is how they're
Yes.
covering garbage. The word garbage. The White House sent out a transcript and added the apostrophe into the word supporters about garbage, and it was so obvious. It's like a 4-year-old trying to tell you how he's not the one who broke the cookie jar. It's
With chocolate all over his
with
face.
chocolate all over his face and his hands, and he's still got a little piece on his tooth, and still denying that it wasn't him. Reminds me of the Family Circus cartoon when all the kids are saying, "Not me, I don't know," and all these little ghosts with those names are running
Yes.
away. And that's how I see, and that's why I just can't watch. I do not think I could sit through 30 minutes of MSNBC. Whenever they're leading folks, I just don't think I could sit there without having had a couple of strong Irish whiskey doubles or something like that. And then it would probably just be worse, and I'd be yelling at it like I would watching the Stars play hockey.
Okay.
Um,
So I actually do. I go on to
no,
MSNBC.
God
I
bless
go
you.
to
I
their
can't do it.
Facebook. If you go to their Facebook, people that want to, this is my trick to find out what the crazies are saying.
Yeah.
Go to the Facebook, you go to videos. And in their videos, it will put their most wretched sound bites of the day.
Okay.
And so it'll be Trump did blah 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 blah. And
Yeah.
then you can scroll up and go to the next one. And then they're screaming about, my body, my choice. Then they're screaming about whatever. They will put their most it's what they think their people want to hear, their little sound bites because their brains are about this big.
Yeah.
They can only listen for 30 seconds. And that's what I listen to because I want to know what people are hearing on the other side.
Okay.
And if you are, this is what is frightening to me. If you're an 18-year-old and you're just hopping on trying to find a news something, a friend sends you maybe an article and you end up on that rolling script of how we hate Trump, it sounds believable.
Yep. Yeah. I know.
It sounds believable. And that's my fear because it's like, Trump's going to become a dictator. Trump said he's going to be a dictator. Trump is a fascist. Trump is going to take away all of your rights.
Well,
Trump
because
is,
they use sound
and it's like,
clips without the full story. They use sound clips
yes.
without. It's just like um, Kamala. Kamala using. I mean, she used that the bloodbath, and she used the very fine people, and she threw those in because one, it was in her show notes, and she was reminded, make sure you get that in, because the people who know that
Mhm.
both of those comments were, and I I hate using the expression taken out of context, but that happens in almost
Mhm.
every news cycle on a if not an hourly, it's a minute by minute basis. What's taken out of context, and it's already been proven time and time again that the Charlottesville statement, that the bloodbath statement, and that the January 6th, that Trump, talking about being accused of riling these people up. He told them to go peacefully protest. I didn't see anything set on fire. But
Nope.
CNN and MSNBC kept referring to the riots that was burning shit down in the Summer of Love as mostly peaceful protests
And
while the
that,
stuff's burning down behind them.
and they claimed that 6 officers died that day.
Yeah,
No officers died that
nobody.
day.
Ashley Babbitt's the only
Some
person who
officers,
died that day, and she was unarmed.
you, the op- there were officers who committed suicide or were murder-sided after,
Yeah, yeah.
but no officers were killed that day. Did
Uh-uh.
somebody get a scratch or maybe fall? I don't. I'm sure. There's a lot of people it could happen,
You know who didn't
but
get injured
no, no.
was the officers letting people into the chambers and things like that, opening the doors for them, giving them a freaking tour. Those weren't were those the officers who were killed that day? No, they weren't. Um, and so
But I mean, she literally said that at the debate.
yeah,
One of them said either maybe Walt said it at the VP debate. 6 officers were killed, and I was like, no one's going to stop him, and
nobody
nobody's
fact
fact
checked it.
checking that.
Nobody fact checked it. Um,
I mean,
but they know they can
that's
get
what
away with
gets
it.
me.
The people who hate Trump will believe anything that is said about him. Okay, you can come up with the most vile things. That he's a felon. Well, I'm voting for the felon because I know he's not a felon. Okay, I voted for the felon. He's not.
Yes, me
He's as
too.
much a felon as you and I. He's as much a felon
Right.
as most of the people who hate him. They've broken laws. His accused what he's accused of is some sort of bookkeeping bullshit that was a misdemeanor at best, that was upgraded by a
Yes.
Soros-backed DA, um, who has disappeared off the radar, which is hard because he makes a big radar image. He's a big old boy,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
he
Well, I believe it was basically commingling, right? Commingling is what they were saying. Trump has so much money. I don't care if he.
do you
I
think
mean,
he's the one that
seriously,
goes over his accounts? Does he go over his accounts? No,
no.
he hires really smart people to do that. But Dave Chappelle was talking about it on Saturday Night Live.
That first debate, I'd never seen anything like it. I've never seen a white male billionaire screaming at the top of his lungs, "This whole system is rigged," he said. And across the stage was a white woman, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, sitting over there looking at him like, "No, it's not." I said, "Now, wait a minute, bro. It's what he said." He said, "I know the system is rigged because I use it."
Donald Trump took advantage of the tax code. Well, why didn't you change it? Why didn't you change it when you were a senator? The reason you didn't is that all your friends take the same advantage that I do. And I do.
I said, "God damn." And then Hillary Clinton tried to punch me in the taxes. She said, "This man doesn't pay his taxes." He shot right back. "That makes me smart."
And they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So
That makes
if
me
he's
smart.
paid zero.
And then he said, "If you want me to pay my taxes, then change the tax code."
You have provisions in the tax code that, frankly, we could change. But you wouldn't change it because all of these people give you the money.
But I know you won't, because your friends and your donors enjoy the same tax breaks that I do.
And that's the reason it's never going to change, because you use the system,
Yep.
and your friends, your supporters use the system. Okay. And then she says, "Well, you don't pay your taxes." He goes, "Yeah, that makes me smart. I don't."
Yes. I
Who,
found every tax relief there is.
who's, I had an argument with the guy I worked with in Russia years ago. He's from Massachusetts. He put himself through the Wharton School of Business like Trump did. Super smart guy. He's doing very well now. But we were talking about, what's long face from Hunt, Married Hunt. Ran for president.
Mhm.
John Kerry. John Kerry.
Oh, okay.
Running
I'm
for
sure you're talking
office.
about Maxine Waters.
No, God, no, God, no. Another long face. John
That's a
Kerry.
long face.
Um, you know, and we were arguing about how I was arguing. Well, John Kerry's been accused of not paying his taxes, and my buddy, who's a Massachusetts liberal, says, "Yeah, well, that just makes him smart. He's using the system." So basically, he said everything that Dave Chappelle was saying about Trump, but this was a liberal talking about a
Yes,
liberal candidate, and it was okay then, you know.
sure.
And I'm like, and
Because he's smart. He knew how to use the.
who did you and I or people like us make the laws that these people are using the system for? No, because we're not elected politicians. The people who put these laws
Yeah.
in place and then accuse you of using it are idiots. Well, actually, they're
Yes.
expecting their constituency, who still supports them, to be idiots to believe in it. But all right, so we've talked about garbage a little bit. Kill Tony calling the island of Puerto Rico garbage, and then Joe Biden calling Trump supporters garbage. And that's probably going to continue for the next day or two, maybe longer. I love that Trump showed up in Wisconsin yesterday, riding on a Trump labeled garbage can, or I'm sorry, garbage truck. I thought that was just freaking epic. That is so unlike Trump.
I think at this point, it's the best thing he can do is to make fun of their ridiculousness.
Well, it shows
I
that he can
mean,
laugh at himself a little bit.
yes, and the whole like you were saying a few minutes ago. Oh, he didn't say that. It was blah blah blah. I've watched the clip.
Yeah.
He says it, he stops because he knows he let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
That's when he literally even pulls his body back,
Yeah. If you
and
could
then
read the
he
body language.
mumbles something, tries to get it. Yes.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Because, I mean, we've all done it.
Yeah.
So just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Out of frustration, I said something I shouldn't have said, and move on. I mean, when I've had a little too much vodka, some stuff comes out that I probably shouldn't say. And you know what I mean? Like, not that I don't think he's a drinker or anything. I think his filter just went down and he does think we're trash. That's the thing. In a joke or in sarcasm, everybody's true feelings come out.
Yeah.
That's why it's funny. That's why it's funny sometimes, because somebody else might be thinking it. That's exactly how he feels about us. Just like everybody calling us deplorables before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just claim it. Don't freaking try to tell us it's because of his speech impediment.
But
I'm so
they
tired
don't.
of that
Yeah, the
excuse.
stutter. Yeah, who was that clown on CNN that said that? I think it was CNN, a CNN panel that said, as a kid who grew up with a stutter, I'm like, man, I just don't give two shits. You know, Mel Tillis was incredibly successful with a stutter. So
Yes.
just go away with that mess. But I'm gonna
He
try.
wasn't stuttering. It was clear.
It was very clear, very clear. I mean, again, the lengths they go to make excuses, and I feel like a lot of the people who support Trump will just say, "Well, shit, he shouldn't have said that," and then they go on with it. Here's what he meant. They didn't have to clarify Charlottesville. They didn't have to clarify him speaking to the auto industry and using the term bloodbath. Now, I will tell you, when I saw Trump giving that speech, and granted it wasn't live, it was sometime later, and he was talking about there's going to be a bloodbath, I knew, it didn't take a half a second to realize he shouldn't have used that word, because they're going to use it against him, and they did. It's so predictable. So predictable. Yep. But he gave them material, and they've been using it ever since. And there's people who are dumb enough who won't listen to the full transcript. And these are smart, intelligent people. They want to be told what to think, how to believe. And they can say the same thing about us because of who we watch and listen to. I feel like I can say I can filter out what's bullshit and what's not. And it's based on how I personally feel. But I'm not going to let Gutfeld or Tyrus or Dan Bongino change what if it feels right, then okay, all right, I'm good with that. It's like I can't go with that. You know, I'm capable of doing that. I don't know how many on the left are.
I think that because Trump talks openly and he talks like he's talking to you know what I mean? He's literally just talking like we do. And so sometimes things are going to slip. Instead of using bloodbath, he should have used, we're going to sweep them. We're going to win in a landslide. Let's, or whatever.
That tells you he doesn't use a script or a teleprompter.
Right. And same thing for but they don't let them out. Their keepers don't let them out.
Yeah.
So they're going to have less of those. But I think it's interesting that when they do have, like he had that slip, I think it does tell him, it wasn't like a synonym. It was, he thinks we're trash. The only thing I see that's trash are his followers.
His supporters.
What? Supporters. What?
Yeah.
What?
And yeah, he's still capable enough to understand, I think, that he's like, oh crap, I shouldn't have said that. But there's a lot of people on the left that's letting it out. There was one politician that's working in the Harris campaign, one that said it was caught on a hot mic saying, just open the borders and let them all in. And I don't know if you saw that. That's from 2 or 3 days ago. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll try and find that clip as well.
No, I think that's an old clip, right?
I don't know how far back. I only saw it a couple 3 days ago. I don't think it may have just been released to the public, but I just saw this a few days ago.
Who was it? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, no, I don't.
Think
I'll
there
have
was
to look it
another
up.
one. There was one a couple years ago. Yeah. So many things. Yesterday, an idea that was rolling around in my brain was somebody on the left had posted that just because someone's a suspected non-citizen that voted doesn't mean they're a confirmed non-citizen. And so, my brain starts thinking. And so I wanted to ask that person, like, do you think that just because someone is present, they should get to vote? Like, and I know there's people that want that just because they're here on voting day, that they should get to vote. And I mean, do you think we're going to get to that point? Because my counter argument would be this: like, if you're at your job and you're voting for something at your job, a policy change or whatever, should I get to bring my husband over and he gets to vote also, even though he has no skin in the game? He doesn't know all the facts about it. Like, I just don't understand this whole thing, that now we're trying to say that if you're here, everybody that comes should automatically be a citizen and everybody should automatically get to vote. Like, what?
Then I want all the money we spent on getting my wife's citizenship back with interest. And I'm going to impose a $5,000 per day penalty that we had to pay all that. Because there is a pathway to citizenship. She utilized it. Now, we know people who did not utilize it, who came through on a student visa and overstayed and then applied the system. But they also contribute to society. They work. They pay taxes. They're educated. Did they buck the system? Yeah, because the system let it happen. I
would like my college tuition back.
Yeah, no shit.
We paid that 100% on time, no interest.
But what did tuition cost when you went to school? I know you went to a D1 school. And it was a few years after I did.
It was cheap back then. It was about $7,000 a semester.
Oh yeah. See, mine wasn't even that. I probably didn't spend $7,000 on my. I mean, I went through TMU University. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
yes.
No, you haven't. TMU, TEMU, EMU. You see them on Facebook all the time. TMU State, I think we were called at the time. We were the Fighting Cheapies.
Yes.
And no, I went to a small school up in Oklahoma, and I went on student loans and Pell Grants because I grew up poor as shit. And the GI Bill, is how I went to school. And I was on the 5-year plan. It took me 7 years to do that, though, and a 2-year break in between while I was on active duty. And so then my daughter, who just graduated in December from a school over in East Texas, she's got over $100,000 in student debt, and she's making. I think she's making $41,000 a year, $43,000 a year, something like that, working at your alma mater. But she's also brand new. I don't expect her to go out. She's not doing anything that's going to make $100,000. She's not a programmer, computer programmer. She's not an engineer. She's not a doctor. But she has a skill that apparently was worth $100,000. So when are universities going to start? And I know we're completely off topic here. We're going down a different rabbit hole here, but maybe it's a topic worth discussing. When are universities going to stop charging? That's where it's at. These professors and whatnot making. I mean, why does Hillary Clinton need to be teaching a class for $500,000 or whatever it was she was taught, or Elizabeth Warren $400,000?
So they're making the money. Us professors, aren't making that kind of money.
No.
You know who's making money on this? Is the universities.
Yeah.
No, professors do not make that kind of money. People think that. Unless you happen to be at Harvard and you are tenured and you've published, you might be making $200.
Yeah.
We aren't making that kind of money.
Yeah.
And you have to have a PhD. Now, with mine, I'm just a master's. But many of them are PhD, and they're not making that much more than me.
Yeah.
And no, it is a broken system right now. But all these people that are getting their loans paid back from when you and I were in, piss me off.
Yeah.
Because I'm tell you, did you know that? So one of my besties, she was on loan, and she would be like, "Hey, I got my loan money," and I'm like, "Oh, great! like, do we need to go pay your fees? What are we doing? She's like, I'm going shopping this weekend. I'm like, she didn't have a job. I had a job.
Yeah.
I had a job, I worked 20, 30 hours a week and took a full load so I could finish in 4 years.
Yeah.
One semester took 21 hours. And
Damn.
she's like, oh no, my loan money came in. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. So they would pay the university, then she would also get extra. So she would get this like check. I'm not kidding you. Like a $5,000 check. This is way back when my whole tuition was $7,000.
Yeah.
She would get like a $5,000 check for room and board, but her parents were paying for her apartment. So she would go and blow that flipping money.
Wow.
And no, she sure as shit should have to pay that back. Not the government.
Yeah.
Because those loans, no. So I need if they're gonna get their loans paid off, I need a check back.
Yeah. Agreed. I'd like to see my daughter's. Her payment is almost what my mortgage is.
I hate that she had to do that.
And she can't afford that. But I mean, now she's the only one of my older kids that has made a valiant effort at school, and she stuck with it, and I'm very proud of her for getting through it. She had changed her major once, and what she changed to is what she stayed with, and that's what she graduated with. And she didn't. I'm not going to say she graduated with honors, but she did. She had a hell of a lot better grade point average than I did. Back in the early 90s when I finished.
The diplomas all print the same.
They do. I mean, the guy that finishes last in med school is still called a doctor, right?
Yep.
And I don't know. It's again, we got off topic there a little bit. Let me try to get us back over to where some stuff that I had written
what
down.
You got?
Someone brought up the election integrity scorecard yesterday. And I know that's a big concern, especially once Tuesday gets here and we start seeing numbers come in. And depending on which side of the aisle a person is on, if their candidate is losing, they're going to start questioning the election integrity. And I'm not going to be any different. If Harris is ahead by 10 points or, and I start looking at the election integrity scorecard, and basically what that was, and I'll flash that up here when in post edit. What the election integrity scorecard looks like. It's the states that have, I guess, the most strict requirements when it comes to voting, what they have in place. It will not surprise you that the bottom 10 are all deeply blue states, and the top 10 are just about all solid red states. And so they, requiring a voter ID. And then it talks, I think, also on there was a lot of columns that it had on it, talking about, absentee balloting, what measures are in place. They give it a score. Some things have a score of like 23, which would be like, 100%. And some, the score 4 is 100%. And so when I pop that up there, I'll show that. But the top 10 states that according to this measure are I believe are all ardent red states. And so, Kamala's already said, is a winner going to be declared that night? And she's like, well, I would hope so, but it's probably going to take a couple days. It shouldn't take a couple days. Why does it take a couple days? We got serial. I know you've seen this before. You got serial numbers on dollar bills. Why can't we do that on voter ballots? It's real simple, because they don't want to fix it. They don't want that system of being in there.
So I've looked at some of these pretty closely. So you have those, like I was saying, those possible non-citizen ones. Okay. So my thing is, why are they getting to even come in and place a vote? Like, if you go to the DMV, this has happened to every one of us that has a new driver in Texas, 16. You got to have this paper, this paper, this paper, this. It is a lot. You get up there and one of them papers is missing, they don't say we're going to give you a provisional. They say come back when you get your stuff.
Yeah.
So why do we allow these provisional votes to even be in the system? Come back when you have your stuff.
Right.
Is it? I mean, right? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's and I don't know. Well, so tell me again about the provisional vote. I don't think I've ever had to do that when I was working overseas. I think I always did either early voting if I was able to, or absentee ballot.
Okay, so if someone turns in a mail-in vote,
Okay.
but let's say that they did not register like a couple days before and their stuff had not been processed,
Okay. They haven't been
but
validated
it
or
gets
verified.
processed but it gets processed in between, this date and when the final date of the voting is. That's a provisional. No, I'm sorry, dude, you missed the. I mean, like, I feel
Yeah.
like that should already be kicked out. But
Yeah.
we wait. That's some of those latent ones that get counted a week after. Let's say you have somebody show up that has moved. Now we can vote anywhere within the county. But remember, 1 year I was a provisional
Okay.
because my driver's license didn't match my current address
Address.
and they were two different yeah, and so
Oh,
I went to the
okay.
one and they said you can't vote here. I left on election night, went over to the other one. I had a provisional ballot. Now, I mean, honestly, like, I was registered and we had just moved like a month before. I should have
Okay.
just lied, I guess, and said, yeah, I'm still there, but I didn't. So there's those. What else? Let's see. Sometimes people show up and try to vote. Some states will let you vote. What is it? You can like register to vote that day or something, and I think you can be a provisional. There's all these just little. I mean, they call it just paperwork issues, and they let these provisionals, but it makes it adds to that. Oops, this is a You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they should be no's. I'm sorry you don't get to vote this time.
You notice what they're not talking about right now is voter ID, and how they were trying to say that it was blacks were not able to do it because they were called out on it. Or do you think blacks are fucking stupid, that they're incapable? And there's been enough man on the street interviews with black people going, yeah, I know exactly where the DMV is. Of course I've got an ID. Of course, I mean, but who is it that's talking down and calling these people are incapable? White liberals. White liberals. That white. My son gets on me for saying white when I say white. But white liberals, creepy ass cracker liberals. That was easy to get out there. So
I've not heard that one. Right.
no,
Creepy
that's creepy ass
ass
cracker. You don't remember when Trayvon Martin
cracker.
during the Trayvon Martin trial, and that one of his key witnesses, this black girl, gets up, and she referred to Zimmerman as creepy ass cracker.
No, because I would have
All
loved
right,
that.
I'll write
I
that
love
down.
some funny work.
I'm going to find you creepy ass cracker.
Okay, I need that video. Okay, focus, Cheryl. Focus.
Where were we? What were we talking about?
How the Democrats they make it look like black people are stupid,
Are incapable
and they do
of
that
getting
crap
a
all
vote.
the time.
Yeah,
Yes,
and so
yes,
they've stopped talking about that altogether because they realize they're it's like throwing shit in a fan. So it's not working. So they're going on to the next
yeah.
tactic. And
Yeah, it's not 1950 where I mean, yes, were they purposely not putting voter booths in the black neighborhoods back then? Yes, they were.
yeah,
We know that.
fast
That's
forward
not the
70
case
years,
now.
it's not the case anymore. Um,
Yes, they can
and
go and vote like anybody else can.
well, everybody has that opportunity. I mean, I've got friends that live in Alaska. They're still able to vote up in isolated areas. They're capable of
Yes.
getting to a voting booth, and all of that. Um, let's see.
So in the states where they're not, do you know how they do? I guess in the states where there is no voter ID required or no ID required, I looked it up to see, well, how do they know you're who you are? How do they know that it's Joe Blow coming up to vote? Do you know how they do this,
Tell me.
or how they say they do this?
Tell me.
Okay, so they say that in their system they have their signature from when they registered to vote. So they'll pull up the person's name. Okay, Joe Brown. Hi, I'm Joe Brown. I'm here to vote. Okay, Joe Brown. Okay, sign right here. They sign a piece of paper and they visually verify that looks the same. Okay, go Joe Brown. Go vote.
Okay.
They do a visual check of their signature.
Okay.
My signature, I have about 5 signatures.
I have one.
So
Mine's pretty same.
if someone was doing mine,
Yeah.
I would be like, shoot, which one did I use that day?
Five
I do. I don't know.
signatures.
I don't. Yeah, maybe
I
three.
think your husband would say that's one for each personality. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, I have my perfect one the one I perfected in second grade for Mrs. Allen on my
Uh-huh.
cursive test.
Yeah. Okay.
I have I have like a scribble scrabble that you can kind of see my letters, and then I have my first name, last name done.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess three-ish.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm like, which one did I use that day? I typically on documents use the one you can actually tell what my name is. But so yeah, that's it. So just some old gray hair going, oh, that looks good, honey. Go.
Yeah. They're called blue hairs.
That's all they
But,
got. What?
I think they're called blue hairs. I've got
No,
gray. Sure, I'm
no.
not a gray hair. Um,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I mean, come on, people, that's not valid.
My oldest brother, his signature, he worked in, and this will show the era and age. He worked in a savings and loan back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing his signature was just it was the same every time, but it was very unique. And I said, "Wow, where did you learn that?" He goes, "Well, I did that because it's you can't repeat it. It's not you can't imitate it." And over the
Yeah.
years, I discovered when I was having to do initials and signatures, I have a different initial setup than I do for signature. For signature, and I can show it sometime, what it looks like, but it's like if you're buying a car or you're buying a house and you got all that paperwork to do, that's kind of, I guess, when I developed my signature. And I think
Yeah.
it's not very repeatable. My initials
Yeah.
probably are. But I also know when I see my signature or my initials, whether it was 10 years ago or if you're going back 20 years, I probably didn't have that. I could tell it. Okay, this is probably boring as shit to listeners. But they also might relate to it. Who knows? It was a little segue there.
They might. But also think about our younger kids that didn't go through handwriting classes like we did.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
my
God.
son's signature looks like a 2-year-old.
I failed
So
handwriting
how are we
in the
verifying
fourth
that?
grade. I failed handwriting in the fourth grade. I remember. I can see it in my mind's eye, bringing my report
Because
card
you
home,
didn't have Miss
knowing
Allen like
I
I
had
did.
Mrs. Kyle. I had Mrs. Kyle in fourth grade, and um, it wasn't an F. It was a U, unsatisfactory. And so I handed that to my mom, knowing full well I was in it deep, but still trying to play dumb. And she's looking through it, and then
Deep doo doo.
she was like, "What is this?" And I had A's and B's, and maybe a C in, I don't know, gym or something like that. But then I had a U in penmanship or in handwriting. And guess what I got to spend the rest of the summer doing? Because this was the last grade report card of the semester, and this would have been
Oh
in like
no.
spring of 1980. They got me a penmanship book like we'd used in Mrs. Huffstetler's class in second grade, and I had to go. Oh God, that's what I spent all summer doing. They would make me sit and go through and tracing letters and all that. My handwriting still looks like crap, but it's probably better than it would have been if I hadn't done
Was it
that.
a Big
So
Chief tablet?
I
Was
remember
it a
Big
Big Chief
Chief
tablet?
tablets. I remember Big Chief tablets. That
Then
wasn't that. No, it was
they might
an
be
actual school
outlawed.
book. Well, because of the name,
Yeah, because of the Indian on the front.
right? Well,
But you know
yeah.
what? Big Chief made a lot of money.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They make Big Chiefs in Oklahoma make a lot of money too right now with all the casinos and everything else they've got. So, more power to them.
Yes,
Um.
yes, yes.
All right.
What else you got on your list for us to talk about?
All right. So a couple of things here before we finish up. Kamala's two-sided way on dealing with illegal immigrants. When she was campaigning, she was so, critical of Trump and the wall and about illegals. And now she said in a speech just the other night, we will quickly remove those who are here illegally.
And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully.
You know, she is, and I just gotta believe people who are on the fence see this about her. And honestly, I can't imagine too many people who are on the fence. I don't know anybody who's on the fence.
No.
And that's got to be such a
I do
small.
know one.
You do, okay?
One of my friend's dads posted the other day, and he's retired Navy, I think. So I was surprised that he posted this. He posts a lot. And he said for the first time, he does not know who he's going to vote for. And I mean, it was a nice article. I mean, not article, but a little post, you know. And he said he couldn't bring himself to vote for Trump, and he couldn't bring himself to vote for Kamala. And it was just an honest, you know. And
that's fair.
And this guy, I mean, he's, you know, and I just was, and everybody, of course, his daughter, who's my friend, was like, "What the heck? You're voting for Trump?" And he's like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And he said, as an American, I can't not vote. Like, obviously, he's a strong American. He 20 plus years.
He understands the privilege of voting. He understands that. So, okay.
Yes. And I was really shocked that he posted that, because it's usually like grandkids and whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he's the only one that I know. But someone posted today, and I wanted to scratch their eyes out, and it was about that she was voting for our daughters and our daughters' lives, literally.
Oh,
I was like, oh my God.
Okay. I saw that last night on TV. And one it was either on the Five or on Gutfeld, because those are the two shows I watch. Somebody was talking about that, about and I want to say it was a commercial that the Harris campaign put out. I'm voting for Harris for my daughter's future, some bullshit like that. And so that's what they've done, is either they've replicated that, or maybe they just posted what they saw when they saw that advertisement.
Okay. You know, I'm a statistics person. I count up some stuff. So I saw a news article last week, and it said that more babies have died since Trump reversed Roe v. Wade than the previous years. Due to not having abortions. And I was like, no, they didn't. It was just a different timeline.
Yeah.
On the previous years, they died in the womb, being murdered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, how can you say, you know, and it said, you know, these babies were never going to be viable, whatever. And I'm just like, have you lost your mind? Like, how does that even make sense in somebody's brain? Because we were unable to kill them before they were born. They died after being born, and now we have more the death rate of babies is going up.
I know that's a touchy subject for you as well. And I guess for most women it would be, and it's completely understandable. But yeah, to try to compare one to the other, it depends on, well, yeah, like you said, we weren't able to kill them until later, you know, they weren't able to die. Yeah.
Instead of saying we've had this many births, you know, the birth rate has gone up since whatever. Okay, that's a statistic I can talk to you about.
Yeah.
But no, I just, it went all over me.
I'm going to post this meme.
Like,
I'll post this meme, but it's called "I support a woman's right to be born," and I'll post that when we're in post production. And so, yeah, the whole women's thing, the whole left leaning men in sports, men being named Woman of the Year. I mean, but then they want to call Trump misogynist, but men are taking over women's roles. Give me a fucking break. I'm tired of it. It adds to the saying that liberalism's a mental disorder. I mean, how can you, well, I identify as so-and-so. I don't give a shit what I identified as a cowboy when I was 7. And then 30 minutes later, I identified as a police officer, Starsky. We were playing Starsky and Hutch. And then, you know, And when I was 14, I tried to identify as a chick magnet. That didn't work. Well, and it never really has. I'm still developing that one. I'm still trying to pretend to be one. It's not working. So, and again, that whole issue right there is we could do a full hour on
Oh,
that,
yeah.
talking about the mental health issue, and the one they don't talk about, and that's the trans movement, the identifying as something that you're not. That's cutting off body parts is the absolute worst thing to do. The blockers and all of that is just, why are not enough people seeing that for the danger that it is and what it's
Okay,
becoming?
so I'm going to give you a preview to it because you know
Okay.
the DSM. Do you know what the DSM is?
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's a DSM, and then after it, there's numbers, and it changes whatever. So it's a manual for mental health, and it is the manual that our mental health providers must use when
Okay.
they are when they are diagnosing mental health issues.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so it changes periodically, right? Like autism wasn't in for a while, Down syndrome wasn't in. There was different labels basically for all of these different things, and transgender and body dysmorphia used to be in the DSM, and a
Of
few
course.
years ago it
Of
was
course.
removed.
Yeah.
And so now providers like my sister cannot use that as a diagnosis.
Wow. Wow.
So if yes, so hundreds of years it was diagnosed, you could help them, whatever, it was removed. Now that's a very simplified version. I know there's different finalities in there or whatever. And it has really hurt her as a provider to be able to help these people. Because she's like, you may be able to get a different diagnosis, but it clearly is a
Mental. It's
diagnosis.
mental. And I think
Yes.
all of us have some sort of a mental defect in one form or another. We have phobias, we have aversions, we have people with PTSD,
Right.
and these are all mental health issues. And we want to push mental health, but the left only wants to push in a certain direction and only in a certain for a certain group. They are ignoring the huge elephant in the room, that is this whole
Hmm.
gender and body dysmorphia and identity,
Yes.
and and then parents who are going along with it and allowing their kids to pretend to be something that they're not. You know, um, I,
It's
I mean,
horrible.
why and how and why are these surgeries being allowed to be done to anyone under the age of 18 or 21? It's and parents should be held accountable for this. Their kids, my wife follows some people on Instagram and Telegram, in Europe and whatnot. And there was one that she was following that was talking about a woman who had been born a man, became a woman, and after she grew up and got a little older, she realized, oh my gosh, what a
She
mistake,
regretted it.
what a mistake. And she's trying to get that after, but the left will shut her down and not let her tell her story. I'll try to find out who that is for one of our next ones to see if we
I
can
was
add that
trying to
into a
find a
section.
so I have watched a few podcasts by a guy. He was a professor, and he wanted to. He was transgender, and he went through the full program, and he started doing that was going to be his thesis. He was going to publish on it. Was that and do a longitudinal study of people who went through the full transition and that they were happier and all of these positive outcomes. Unfortunately, he disproved his theory because he had remorse
Yeah,
and he began to have conversations with all the people in his community, and many of them were having remorse as well.
yeah,
And he said, so now he's come out as he's gone back to his original sex, which was male, but he no longer has male parts.
yeah.
And he goes around speaking, and he talks about how easy it was that he had to go in for one visit with a therapist and
And
got
that
the
was it.
approval.
Oh wow.
That was it. Then no other help for him. How he Then, once he decided to go back to his original gender, he was ostracized within his community.
Sure.
All these people that were supposed to be helpful and loving and accepting of whatever you are now have ostracized him, like death threats, all of this. And that finally, now he's in his 60s, through years of therapy, he has realized that he was sexually abused as a child, which we know that 90% of these people have been abused.
Wow.
That he did not want to not have a penis. He just wanted to be unattractive to the man that had hurt him. And he
Okay.
thought, if I don't have a penis, if I'm a girl, he
Yeah.
won't like me.
Yeah.
And he said, had someone helped me go through the therapy and realize that, he wouldn't have ruined his whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very sad and compelling how,
Wow.
and he said he's had conversation after conversation with these men, and it's very similar. Like these women that want to bind their breast. It's because they don't want their perpetrator to want their breast.
Yeah.
And it's sad for these people. I mean, and so that's why my take on these people is I'm not mad at them anymore. I used to be like, oh, it's gross. I'm young in my 20s. I didn't understand it. I'm sad for them.
That happens to a lot of
I
us.
mean,
When we're confronted with something that's so outside our norm, a lot of times our initial reaction is to do that. But I also think because it's become so prevalent in the United States, is this happening anywhere else in the world on these numbers? I don't think it is. And are they doing anything different, to do that? But I think the normal reaction is, that's so weird, and
yes.
being gay or lesbian is not. I don't think it's weird. I don't relate to it, of course. The lesbian thing,
Right.
I find that I do have some lesbian qualities in me, but and
When you're famous, somebody's going to pull that clip
Oh,
out and
yeah.
say
Oh.
you're a lesbian.
Yes, I am. In a man's body. Yeah. So I'm
Oh,
okay
my
with
God.
that. But we went down a rabbit hole there for a bit.
We did. But because if we want to come back to this topic, I will talk about this.
Yeah, let's
Yes,
do.
I think
Let's
that
do.
it is the amount of our children that are being sexually abused in America is astronomical and disgusting.
Where's those
And
300,000 kids that we got lost across the border?
I will talk about it all flippin' day long because I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah.
it with kids,
Yeah.
personally with my children in my schools,
Yeah.
and people that I know that are now adults, and it is freaking disgusting. And that is, I will go to the grave saying that is why we have so many people with sexual issues,
Because of the abuse.
and nobody's willing to say it, that it is so pervasive in America right now that they are just using up our kids for sexual gratification,
Yeah.
and it's horrible, and we're going to continue to see it until we start doing something to these people that are hurting our
And
kids.
there's so much
So,
evidence, especially coming out of Hollywood. The whole P. Diddy thing, Sean Combs thing, Harvey Weinstein using his influence, Jeffrey Epstein, um, all of that.
but those aren't going to, I'll say this again, those aren't going to get the bad stuff because they're going to say, well, they were 15, 16-year-old girls and they looked
15,
like
16.
adults.
But they
But
still
we
weren't.
have 2 and 3 and 4-year-old children
Yeah.
being brutalized.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing. So, but it's yes, those young girls, it's almost like, oh well, they look like an adult. You know what I mean? And no,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Yeah. No, looking and being, we used to have a saying when I was younger. I won't repeat it here, but when as a guy, when a girl's available, she's there's some
Yeah.
sayings that we said as teens, as young teens, as non-adult teens.
Yes.
We said, and that's what boys are doing. Girls going to have their conversations, boys have their conversations. Doesn't make it right, and you realize
And
just how wrong it was when you have kids of your own.
And I mean, I get it. At that age, they do. I mean, 16-year-old boys
Yeah.
many times look much older, and the same thing, especially girls look older.
Well,
So
that's why
I
people
get
in your
it.
profession are going after 16-year-old boys in their schools. You know, I was begging for
Totally.
that. I mean, I had a teacher. Anyway, we're gonna go down another rabbit hole. She had all she had to do was call me in for some special counseling, and by golly, I'd have been there after school every day. I'd be dusting her erasers,
Well,
but that wouldn't have been right, and
and
that would have.
again,
Go ahead.
that's a whole other thing when you have a willing participant.
Yeah, yeah,
When someone's being paid for it or held under duress, that's a whole nother thing too.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Or groomed, or
yeah,
oh, you're gonna become a superstar if you come to the P Diddy party,
yeah. Yeah, you grab a bottle
and
of
then they're
baby
just
oil on your way
using
in.
you. Exactly, exactly. That's a whole
Uh,
other thing. Willing participant, that's different.
yeah,
Um, anyway, I think you would have been a willing participant. That's what I'm
I would
saying.
have.
But
Oh, yeah. I, I know that without a doubt. Shamelessly or shamefully, either way, yes, yes. At
oh my
16, 17,
gosh,
18, absolutely. So it wouldn't have made it
yeah.
right.
Well, I mean, 100 years ago, well, not even that, 50 years ago, 16, 17-year-old people were getting married.
Having kids, yeah. My
Yeah.
grandparents on my mom's
So,
side were, well, I think it was only 12 years difference, which is the same age as my wife and I.
uh-huh.
Which at our age now, it's not that big of a factor. I have friends who, the husband and wife, the wife is the same age as the guy's daughter. Now, the daughter's in her 40s. Okay, so, um,
Yeah.
but I was just like, yeah, not sure. Well, hell, I don't know. More power to him. I'm sure there's a big age gap between Trump and Melania, right? Um,
So when my mom got remarried to my stepdad, he was older than her. I think about 10 or 12 years, which made his daughter only like 8 or 9 years younger than my mom,
oh yeah,
and she had kids early.
yeah.
So her son is a year younger than me. So
Your
like
step,
yeah,
he's not your
I
stepbrother.
guess my nephew.
Yeah,
So he was my nephew, step nephew, and we're this, so it was a little, weird because like I have these stepsisters now that were, you know, in their 40s, and I was in my
yeah,
20s. I was like, what's going on? And my mom was like 47 when they got married. So,
yeah.
um, but that's different at 47 and 55, 60 than it
Right,
would have been obviously at
right.
16 and 30.
Yeah,
Eh.
yeah. I've got a friend down in Houston who, she was my oldest daughter's babysitter when she was in high school, and my daughter was just a few months old, and I've stayed kind of in a central role, I guess, in her life because her and her dad have been estranged since that time. Her dad left the family on Thanksgiving Day. I forget what year it was, but it was late '90s, and I just kind of stepped in, and our families just did things together, and um, I've just been kind of a person that she goes to
Mhm.
when she has issues that she needs to talk to a dad on, but she doesn't want to talk to her dad, and so I've tried to
Yeah.
stay in that role in her life. Now, her age and my wife's age are basically the same. And so when I step back
Same.
and look at it
Mhm.
like that, I'm like, okay, I couldn't have been married. It's, you know, but and now she's
Yes.
dating a guy that's my age, and she wants me to have a talk with
Oh my
this guy.
God.
I'm like, seriously, what am I going to tell
I
him?
think I
What?
think she has some daddy issues.
She has some daddy issues, and I get that. I get that. I mean, her dad left at a young age, and I guess the family
Right.
life hadn't been good, and I've been somewhat of a
Mm-hmm.
stable father figure at times for her, and I'm happy to do that if somebody needs someone to bounce questions and concerns off of. I've always been happy to do that,
Yes. I'm
and
just
so
messing with you.
I know, it's fine, it's fine. All right, do we have anything we want to throw in before we wrap up here?
Um, Do you think how many Trump costumes you think we're going to see tonight, or garbage bags?
That's a good question. I assume I'll be the one
That's an
dishing
easy
out the candy.
costume.
I'll be the one dishing out the candy here at the house. And so we'll see what, if any. I think the weather's going to be good too, so hopefully we get a lot of kids out. I don't know if I'm going to be the candy hander outer, or if I'm going to be taking the young one around in his marshmallow costume, which is
Yes, I'll be doing both
you'll be doing both.
because
The
yeah,
husband's working.
because yeah, well, they're headed to Chicago this afternoon.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He's got a tournament this weekend.
Yep.
All right. Well,
So
good
I
luck
will
to
just leave a
them.
bucket. I'll leave a bucket
Mine
out, and they'll go and then come back. So
Mine doesn't have any games this weekend, but they go to Nashville next weekend for a tournament.
oh, are you
And
going?
I'll be back in West Texas
Okay, that's right.
this time
Okay.
next week. In fact, I'll be driving that way on Election Day, so we might have to do a election night stream if we can. Our
I'm
Wi-Fi
trying to
where I
find a
work is not
streaming
always so
system.
good. What's
Yeah,
that?
I want to find a streaming system for the night of election night where we can have other people come in too. So I'm looking for something.
We can use this, I think, and in fact, let's go ahead and wrap up here, and then we can talk about that once I get
Okay, perfect.
on into post
Happy
edit.
Halloween.
But, enjoy your special night. I know it's as big for you as probably your birthday and anniversary
Yes,
and all that. I think I know you well enough that it's a big night for you. So safe
I'll
travels
get out. I'll
to
dust off my broom.
dust off your burn. Safe travels to the husband and son on their way to Chicago, and good luck to the team up there. And we'll regroup
Thank you.
and do this again at least once or twice more before election night.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so
All right,
signing off.
over and out.
We'll see you later.